More data points are derogatory accounts. This is like a huge one. You're looking for anything that says collection, charge off. Bankruptcies are derogatory. Late payments are derogatory. If you have late payments on a closed account, you're better off just getting that entire account removed
Yes.
if you're not able to get the late payment corrected. And I'm assuming at this point, you've probably tried or maybe not,
Yeah.
but chances of you getting a closed late payment corrected, very slim to none, because the account's not open. The bank could care
Yeah.
less,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that late payment is really looking like, it's a huge, basically, wound on your
Yes.
credit report that is
Yes,
just
it is.
hemorrhaging
Yes.
until it's off. You got
Yep.
to close up any of these wounds where you're just hemorrhaging out, because you don't want to bleed to death. Okay. And
Yeah.
these derogatory accounts, collections, charge offs, a lot of people have a misconception like, oh, well, everyone on the internet just tells me not to pay the collection and I'll be fine. It'll just go away. Guess what? There's a difference between a collection and a charge off. Collection accounts, yeah, I agree with all of that stuff and more. Charge off accounts, guess what? This is the original creditor, probably like Chase or, whatever bank you're with. And if you owe the debt to them, you're better off settling with them, because it's not going to go away. A charge off is very different than a third party collection, because this is the bank. They have all your information. They know you paid this bill from your bank account. They can prove that it was you that opened it. Now, you can go with that as far as you want to, but in my opinion, it would be better for you to just settle some of the debts that are validated, especially if you've been, hacking at it for 6, 12 months and you're like, man, this Chase charge off just won't go away. They say I owe them $2,000, and yeah, I did mess up on their credit card, but I just don't want to pay it.
Yeah.
And if you don't just pay that shit, you can settle for 30 to 50 cents on the dollar. You do not need debt consolidation, people. You just need to be able to negotiate with the bank saying, hey, I fucked up. I'm here to make right. What do I got to do? I'm willing to settle. I don't have much, but hey, I will offer you $1,000 to settle on this $2,500 debt.
But if
That's
you let $1,000 or $3,000 stop you from eventually future getting $100,000 or ten
right.
thousand dollars
It makes
go
no
on to
sense.
you, then you're not ready, and there's no
Right.
disrespect. Or even if I have people come to me to say, "Hey, I want you to clean my credit," and different things like that, and then they'll say, "Oh, well, I've been to different credit repair people before and stuff like that."
Yeah.
And I always say, like, "Hey, how long ago was that? What was the case?" And if they're saying, "Oh, that was 2 years ago," I'm just like, "Well, you're still not eligible for funding." So if you went and you had bad experiences and stuff like that, is it just stopped my whole life? You've dated people, you ate at restaurants where the food was horrible, but your
Mm-hmm.
ass went back there 3 weeks ago for somebody else's birthday party. So
Right.
stop the BS. Do you want it or do you not want it? And that's
Right.
just that. And one last thing before we move on, I want to say also that you want to make sure you're getting with a skilled person, because I do see people who've been to other people, they've been cleaned up, but I can look at their report. They may have gotten the bankruptcy off, but they didn't get those comments or those details that links that account to the bankruptcy.
Yeah.
So that to the naked eye, a person who's not that skilled don't see that. They just think of the big picture. Wow, this bankruptcy's gone. Yay, yay, yay. But there's other little details and nuances that let people know what's up without even saying it. You know how they say that real money's quiet? It can walk in
Yeah.
the room, shut it down, you don't know it. There's also quiet indications on your credit report that tells if you're about that life or if you're full of shit. It
Yep.
does. And you won't even be able to tell because you don't have that credit education.
Yeah.
So that's just another tidbit that's really important when it comes to bankruptcies or charge offs or little comments that the bureaus would make to let another lender know what's really going on with you.
Man, I couldn't agree with you more, because some people are like, well, why do I have to pay that? Like, I'm paying for credit repair. Okay, this is a credit card that you effed up. You're the one that's trying to run from your debt. Like,
Oh,
we can, like, collection accounts are easy because they're third party and they don't have the original information. A lot of times it's hard to validate, right? So, third party collection companies are very easy to get off your credit report. But when we're dealing with charged off accounts where you're like, yeah, that was me, but I just don't want to pay it.
yeah.
Okay, part of the credit repair process is, coming to accept that you fucked up And now you want to do right and be better, because as long as you have that charge off on your account, it's holding you back from more opportunities than $1,000 for sure. Okay, you're
Absolutely.
literally just holding yourself back from unlimited possibilities. Is it going to happen in the next month, 2 months? I don't know. It depends on the rest of your information. Chances are, if you recently like messed up with everything, it's going to take a while to recover, because you need to show your on time payments, and that simply just takes time. But overall, you're working towards all of these data points, is clearing up all of these derogatory accounts. When you get your credit reports, you're going to be looking for the word derogatory, charge off, collection. Highlight all that stuff on your credit report and dispute it. Once you've gone through the dispute process, and we cover this again in the community,
Yes.
at some point you need to say, hey, I don't think this is going to go away. It's my debt. And I understand that I can't run from my past. Okay. And some accounts I'm just going to have to make right on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make right on this. And
Yeah.
then after it's paid and the bank really doesn't give a crap because they've already got their money, they're no longer reporting it as an active derogatory account holding you back every month, then it's a lot easier to get deleted off of your credit report, if that makes sense. And I know it's like, well, how can I get it deleted afterwards? Well, the bank's continuously verifying the information every single month.
Yeah.
So once you've settled and paid, you can still dispute it directly with the credit bureaus and say, look, this data is absolutely inaccurate. Delete it off my credit report.
Absolutely. And that's becomes what having the information, having the tools and stuff to be able to do it. But if you think that you can just skip town or skip it and it will always come up. It will.
It's
And
always
it's
going to haunt you. Don't let your past bite you in the ass. Okay. And I tell people that a lot, but they want to go get a CPN. They want to go try to, cut corners.
yeah,
Stop. If you really want true success in this world, it's going to take time. It's going to take dedication. And a lot of times you have to unlearn what you once thought was the right way and re-educate yourself, unlearn and relearn everything
gotta be
over. And it's
worthy of it.
hard.
That's why they call it credit worthiness. You have to be worthy to get it. Can people get it? Yeah, people can line up all day to get to the Apple store back in the day to get a phone. But guess what? Everybody's not going to get one. People will line
Mm-mm.
up. They can line up to get the Jordans or line up to get whatever they want. But that doesn't mean because they're in the line that
Yeah.
they're getting into the club. It just
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't work that way. You
No.
have to have the criteria to get into the club.
Yeah. And you can have the same credit score and still be denied. So, say, for
Of course.
example, me and Marshall apply for the same American Express credit card. Our credit scores are the same, but I was denied. Well, and she was approved. That can still happen because, for example, if I have some sort of data point that American Express doesn't like, they could easily decline me. So it doesn't matter what the credit score is. You could literally go and apply for the same credit card with someone who has a very similar credit score, and one person will be approved and one person will be denied. So
Absolutely.
you just
Absolutely.
have to really make sure that you're focusing on the data points. And, we never know if someone's 100% going to get approved or not. That's why you go through the process. If for some reason you're not approved, we get that inquiry off your credit report. We work with you to get it off. So that way you can focus on building, a stronger profile, whatever that might look like for you. And then you can reapply in 90 days or so. And
Absolutely.
I got denied from American Express so many times before I got approved. So
I've only been denied once though, and that hurt me. I said, okay, I'm going to make sure. And then once, because I really wanted USAA, and I was so confident. I was like, why would they tell me no? Look at all these banks saying yes. They didn't care, honey. They did not care. And then when I finally got it, I was like, yes, I felt worthy. Like I earned
right.
it. I did what was needed to
Yeah.
do. And now with other cards, please don't feel like, oh, she's never getting denied. I just do the research before I go apply.
Mm-hmm.
I stay in my weight class. I know what I'm going after, and I go after it strategically versus just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. That's the only
Yeah.
reason why.
You
But
don't want
prior
to do
to
that.
having credit education, So I would just say, oh, I got approved for this. Let me just run down the list and start applying. And then you get all these cards. Like literally, I always tell people, if I added all those cards up, I couldn't even get $800. Why the hell do you
Right.
need them? Like, no, you want good cards. Even if they're telling you, hey, you qualify for a
Yeah.
$1,500 card.
No, stop, don't.
Ugh. I like cards
Yeah.
$5,000 and better. Like
Yeah.
$5,000 is still low in the grand scheme of things. No disrespect to people who are still in the hundreds and stuff like that, but $5,000 is low on the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things. So even
Yeah.
if you're getting under that, then great. That's why we should be having this conversation.
Right.
You,
And you
you
have
thought
to
you ate. You thought
understand,
you ate with that $750 card, baby. You're not eating.
right.
You're not
You
eating.
have to understand how it works,
No.
because if you have a $500 card and you go buy a tire or something, you have an emergency, your card's going to be maxed out. That's why we want the high limits. So when we do have to use our credit cards, we're not affected so much, because in this day and age that we live in, $1,000 ain't shit. Okay. $500 ain't shit, but we might want to put that on our credit card and we could pay it off in a couple weeks, no
Yeah.
problem. But if we do put it on our $500 credit card, it's going to max that card out and it's going to drop our credit score, and it's just going to hurt us more than it's going to help us. But if we put that $500 charge on like a $5,000 credit card or a $10,000 credit card, then that's perfect, because 5,000 would only be on the $5,000 card. It would only be 10%. We want to stay under 10% of the available credit limit. Okay. So that's the purpose of it. And if you need to add trade lines to help get you to a higher credit limit, let me know. We have trade lines, and that's what I use to help me get to that next level and to get those bigger limit cards. Because like I said, I was in the baby range for a year or two before I learned about trade lines, because
Yeah.
you have to have comparable credit.
Yeah. And people don't realize, I mean, trade lines are so beneficial in the right situation because
Right.
everything is custom. Sometimes people going for a higher amount of business funding. There's business trade lines, there's personal trade lines, but just think
Mm-hmm.
of a trade line as a ponytail. You have a bob right now, but you want to let that hair swing. Snap a trade line on that profile and make that thing shake, honey. So there's so many different ways. That's why I said, as long as you come with a clean profile, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If
You
you come
can't
with
have
a
any
profile,
collections.
we can hook it up
Right.
respectfully, legally, and all that stuff like that. Make sure I
Yeah.
want to be clear on that. We can
Yes.
hook it up. But if you come in with pots busted open and bruises and blemishes,
Yeah.
expect those wounds to heal before we can put you to the next stage. Don't think that you're coming in with 79 derogative items and you're ready for $100,000 on Thursday. It don't work like
Mm-mm.
that. Verizon
No.
told you it don't work like that. Capital
Yeah.
One told you it don't work like that. Credit One told you it don't work like that. So don't come to me thinking it's going to work like that. They already told you before you got to me that it's a no-fly zone. Don't think you're getting on this jet. It's a no-fly zone. We got to get it
Right.
together.
And I tell people, like, you can't put sugar on it. Okay. You
Oh,
can't put sugar on poo. Why would you want to put a cherry on top of, all of that? It doesn't work, right? You have to
blasphemous.
clean
Yeah.
up the shit before you add to it. Okay. And that brings us to the next data point
One
here,
more point
which,
before we go there, and I'll be quick. No,
oh,
I'm
sure.
laughing at that because you see commercials. Get a bank loan with bad credit. Get this with bad credit.
Yeah.
Anytime you got to go and apply something with bad credit, you should be ashamed of yourself. Because do you really think that you're going to get a fair kick? They're luring you in because they know that you spend the most money.
Yeah.
You put the most money into it. Somebody that two people, the BMW cost one person 10,000, that same BMW cost you 38,000, all because of interest, all because of bad credit,
Mm.
all because you're paying the most. You're paying the most and doing the most and getting the
Ugh.
least. Okay? So just be mindful. If those things sound so good, it may want to make you feel good. I love when a guy called me and be like, "Hey baby, this it sounds so sweet." But when you
Hmm.
knock down all the pieces, do it make sense? Do it
Right.
the relationship that you want? Are you doing worthy stuff? And how if they're starting off, hey, all the no, disrespecting about who's felons and stuff like that, all the felons, all the criminals, all the losers, all of this coming this side of the door. Why would you even want to walk through that side of the door? Not
Right.
saying that a felon's a loser. I'm just using titles. But why would you even want to walk through that door? Hey, hey, bad credit. It's like, come on, let us rob you. Let us take advantage of you. Come on.
Hmm.
Who wants to get robbed right in here?
Let us kick you while you're down, while you're
Yes.
feeling down.
Honey, let us
Yeah.
take your eyelashes and eyebrows while we stripping you of your hair.
Yeah.
Girl, no. Uh-uh.
Yeah. You always have to ask yourself, if something sounds too good to be true, at what cost is this going to be? And, I have a lot of people that I've had, multiple calls with, and they book calls with me before they make these type of financial decisions. So I can give them the real honest feedback that
Yeah.
they need for them to make an educated decision that's
Yeah.
not going to be an effed up one in the long term. Because once you get an auto loan, I mean, you're locked in for what, 5 to 7 years?
Yeah.
If you feel like it's not a good idea for that long, you're better off with a lease, because sometimes you can lease a vehicle at like 36 months and be in a better situation. But
Yeah.
even still, like, at what cost is this going to be? What is your interest rate? A lot
Yeah.
of people, as soon as they hear the word approved, that's all they need to
They
hear.
jump. They
That's
jump.
that's all. They
They
don't care
jump.
about nothing else
Yeah.
because they got approved. Yeah.
Pre-approval doesn't mean that you got the approval.
No, no,
It's
no,
just
it
to
does
say,
not.
hey, we fishing. We out
Right.
here fishing for people who may qualify. So
Right.
when you get a pre-approved, don't get all excited or all jacked up like, yes, I'm pre-approved. A lot of people get pre-approved. And
Absolutely.
just get this way, people whose houses go into foreclosure, they were once approved. So it's not
Mhm.
what you get, is what you can keep.
Right. It's what you make of it. So,
Yes.
it is so important for you guys to understand how to leverage credit so you can create multiple streams of income. Credit is not for you to live a certain lifestyle, but it's for investments. When I first got my first $1,500 credit card, I was so proud because I'm like, oh my God, it's the highest one that I've had. Like, before I was educated about credit, the highest credit limit that I had, I want to say, was like $3,500. It wasn't much, but back then it was like, oh my
It was
God, I
everything,
got
right? It's just, I did
$3,500,
it. I did it. Yeah.
And so when PenFed gave me my first $1,500 credit card, shout out to PenFed, one of my favorite credit unions out there. You can get multiple credit cards with them as well. They also do the pledge loan, and you don't have to have any sort of military. You just make a $5 donation and you can join. Head over to penfed.org, I think it is, and you can sign up,
I love
check them out.
PinPad. I love PinPad.
Yeah, PenFed is great. They have great auto loans, but they were the first ones to give me $1,500 credit card. And that was when I very first started my business. It was probably the beginning of 2020, because I remember going to Best Buy. My daughter was an infant, brand new baby, tiny baby.
Oh,
And I said, I'm going to take this $1,500 credit card and I'm going to max it out buying an Apple laptop, because that's what I needed. I was using like a Dell laptop and it was just not it. So I used that entire $1,500 balance and put that towards a laptop. I still had to pay more, but I said, hey, put $1,500 on this card and put the rest on my debit card. And I used it for a great investment. And in that case, it's okay to max out your credit cards, because you have to in order to get the equipment. But I had a plan in place where I paid it
yes.
on
Earn the
time.
money and pay it on time and
Yes.
get that balance down and then
Yes.
move on to the next. And
Yes.
once you get those balance downs and you're paying good, you're going to get a credit limit increase.
Hmm.
So yeah, it would have said credit limit, highest credit 1,500, but as soon as that limit, excuse me, would have went up to 3,000, go up to 4,000, it looks like you've only been paying, the highest you ever used was the 1,500 or the 1,700 or whatever
Right.
you use. So make it work for you. We're
Hmm.
not saying that it's the end of the road. If you feel like, oh my gosh, we've been punching and kicking, good. Feel the bruises if it applies.
Yeah.
But
This is not
come
easy.
healed.
This
Come
is
get it
not easy.
healed. Yeah, it's not a snap of the wrist or a snap and it's fixed. And people will tell you that online. And hey, if that's something that you want, the instant result, you do it and you see how it comes out
Yeah.
on the back end. You do it and you see how it comes out on the back end. It just
Yeah.
doesn't come out that great on the back end. Sometimes
No.
that lasagna has to go into the oven versus the microwave or the air fryer. And
Yeah.
that's just is what it is.
And
It
it
just
has to sit. It can't be eaten right away. It has to sit
yeah,
for hours.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you got to let it all come together and form. And I feel, in this world, everyone's in a hurry. Everyone wants things super quick. I
Yeah,
get it. So do
me too.
I. But
Me
I'll be
too.
the first one to tell you, I've been through this stuff myself, and it simply takes time. Okay.
Yeah,
And when I needed credit the most, I wasn't able to get it.
yeah.
Okay. So it's so important for you to structure everything now when you don't need it, or, you don't really need to use it right now. Like, I know I'm going to need a car in the next 6 months or a year, but I don't really need it right now. It's a great time to get started.
To
Okay.
start prepping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because even if you wait, like you need a car right now and you wait and you start pulling credit cards and stuff, then we're talking about that credit history. And then we're
Hmm.
talking about those inquiries and stuff that you're
Yeah.
acquiring. And if you don't know what to do and you're getting approved for these cards and they're going on your credit and you're doing all that for a $200 and $300 card, what?
Mm-mm.
That's
Yeah.
like walking to go get the cheesecake for Diddy and not even getting the record deal. Like
Right.
you did
Right.
it for nothing. You did it for
Yeah.
nothing.
And, another thing that people do that really shoot themselves in the foot is they get a credit card from, say, like a credit union, Navy Federal, PenFed, something like that. They get a credit card, they go and use the credit card, and then they make a fraud claim on the charges on the credit card. That is the fastest way to F up your relationship with the bank and never get a credit limit increase.
I
Okay.
had a client get their card shut down.
Yeah.
They purchased something. Yeah, they sent somebody an invoice, and the money was supposed to go into their Navy Federal account, but he only had the account for about 30 days. Navy Federal said, "No, ma'am, no, sir,
Yeah.
you're done forever." So he can't. And even the person who wrote, like who did the fraudulent claim, he said it was an accident because he thought that he was billed twice. So even he got a goodwill letter, spoke to somebody over at Navy Federal. The person wrote a letter on behalf of the client who had the account holder who had the account, and Navy Federal told them, no, we'll reconsider it later, but right now, absolutely not. People
Mm.
aren't playing. People aren't.
No,
Ever
these
since
banks are not
everybody has
playing.
this Navy Federal play and telling you all these things and stuff like that, honestly, people, you should really want to get into a tribe where you can be behind the paywall or behind the closed
Mhm.
doors to really talk about it.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, these banks, they have a social media platform too.
Hell
They're
yeah.
watching these videos and they're watching in different things. So people who's telling you all these plays and do this specifically, don't you think that's going to be changed within a few months, a few
Yeah.
weeks, a few days after you try? Look at the
Yeah.
comments. Two people
Yeah.
may say, "Yay, I did it." That's because the video was posted for 6 seconds and 88 minutes. But on
Mhm.
that 50th watch or that 60th watch, the bank did already changed all that.
Yeah. These banks are a lot smarter than you think. You
Of
think you're gonna
course.
outsmart them. You
Of
think you're
course.
gonna, outdo them. You're sadly mistaken. So you just need to get into that right state of mind and stop trying to, beat the system and play the game. Okay. And credit is not a cheap game. You have to pay to play. But once you learn how to do so, I mean, you have access to things that you would have never had access to,
Once you get a
properties.
seat at the table, once you get a
Yeah.
seat at the table,
Oh
you can,
yeah.
but guess what? You got to feast accordingly. You got to do right. You have
Yes,
to do right. And of
you have
course, we're
to.
here to hold your hand. We're
Yes.
just being direct because you have to be direct. There's not really a way to sugarcoat it. We can
Right.
definitely be comical because there are some funny things that happen in the space. But
Oh
if you're
yeah.
really looking for a proper brain surgeon or a proper heart surgeon, you don't want them just say, "Oh yeah, you're going to be there 2 seconds a minute." No, you want somebody that's going to really get in there and save and preserve your life.
Yeah. And be
So
honest with you about
yes,
the process.
exactly, exactly, exactly. Now
I
everybody's
just
file's not the same, but you still
yeah.
want somebody who's going to tell you, "Hey, look at this." And we'll do custom files. We'll look at what's
Mhm.
going on specifically with you and give you a roundabout time of what's going on, even though the removals are always at the discretion of the credit bureau. But
Yes.
there's ways and there's tactics and there's strategy to get you a faster result. However, you have to be willing to invest your money, but also your time and your
Mhm.
understanding, and you have to invest in your patience because that's what it is. It's a back and forth game.
Mhm.
Even just waiting the 30 something days is like, oh my God, oh my God. But guess what? It has to
Yeah.
happen. Your
Yeah.
baby had to wait the 9 months or 8 months, depending. And some people, of course, have early, but it had to wait that time period. It
Mhm.
did. The Bentley had to take the 6 months to be birthed in order
Yeah.
for have a great car with luxury and different things like that. Things
Yeah,
just take time.
they
And
do.
if you snap your fingers, I don't think that you really want it because there's something on the other side that's faulty. You can get loans. I've seen people come from nothing and really pull themselves up and identify that they want to do something and be something. And guess what they did? They leveraged their credit. And you're looking
Yeah.
at somebody right here. You know, my family don't have it like that, but I made sure that once I got a hold of the information and got connected around the right people, I didn't let them go. I was studying, I was reading. I fell into the credit space. I started off as a virtual assistant to somebody who's now the man in the credit space, but
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn. I grew so fast because he got so busy. So the
Mm-hmm.
reality is you get yourself in them rooms, get in there. If I had to be at a job and I was like, let's just say food service, and I'm doing different conferences or serving food at conferences, after I'm serving that food, I'm listening. If all these people are coming to this this webinar or coming, not webinar obviously, but in-person conference and all this other stuff like that, something must be working. If people could
Yeah.
afford to just have the life that they want, something must be working. Get the information that you need, connect with the people that you need, and get what you need to get to the next place. And that may require you cutting certain people off.
Mm-hmm.
You just got
Mm-hmm.
to do what you got to do. Do you
Yeah.
want to cut Capital One off or do you want to cut Corey off? I think you should cut Corey off.
Right. Right. I mean, it's just there's so many what if scenarios. There's a lot
Yeah,
of gray area with credit, unfortunately. And, not everything goes away. And if you have old debt, it's even if it gets removed off your credit report, it doesn't mean that you don't owe the debt. It just means that it's not listed on your credit report.
yeah,
So we get into all that stuff
yeah. There's
inside
so
of the
much to talk
community, guys.
about. It's so much.
Absolutely. As far as the next is going to be credit mix. And this is something that can be challenging because not only do you need to have credit cards, you also need to have installment loans.
Yes,
So the perfect credit mix would be something like, 2 to 4 installment loans, preferably only 2 of the installment loans open, and anywhere from 4 to 6 credit cards. I like to be, a little bit more on the credit card side because you
me
can keep
too.
all of those at a zero balance.
Me
So
too.
even if you go 6 to 10 credit cards, that's fine. But I wouldn't over leverage and go past 10 because you don't want to over leverage your personal credit, even though a lot of people do, myself included. But it's just not really necessary because you can grow your current lines and groom those as long as they're with good grade A banks and trade lines. Now if
Yes.
you've got a bunch of secured credit cards from crappy subprime lenders, then that's another thing. But if you have good grade A trade lines with banks like Navy Federal, Bank of America, Chase, all of the credit unions and real financial institutions,
Yeah.
then that's even better because you can grow that relationship. So we need to
Yeah.
have a nice mixture of all of those accounts.
Yeah. Well said.
Perfect. Next, we have credit inquiries. And, these two accounts are only 10%. You'll notice I didn't really put a percentage on the derogatory accounts because derogatory accounts really are not included with your credit score per se, right? But we all know that it is because if you have a collection, your credit score is going to be a lot lower. So
Yes.
in reality, if you have derogatory accounts, this can really account for like up to 30% of your score as well. So it
Yeah.
really does hold you back a lot. But with new credit, this is basically all of the new credit that you've acquired in the last 24 months. So like your
Yeah.
credit inquiries, if you have a lot of credit inquiries, you're going to be high risk because you're seeking credit too much. So that's why it's so important to clean up all of the credit inquiries that are not associated with any sort of account that's on your credit report. And for some people that I work with, it's like they've got 10 on each credit bureau, 30 credit inquiries that were not attached to any account. We need
Yeah.
to get those out of here. They're going to last for 25 months on your credit report. So 24 months, and then it takes about 30 days for it to fall off
Yes.
organically. But
Yep.
who wants to keep credit inquiries on their credit for that long? I'm only willing to have a couple that I actually have accounts with. And even some of the ones that I do have accounts with, I dispute right after I get approved because they can't see the account on my credit report. So you have a very small window of opportunity, about 2 weeks or so, for you to be able to dispute any inquiry that you applied for recently. But,
Yeah, but
it's
who needs
10%, but it
30?
still matters.
Yeah, but who needs? I've seen people that go get cars or just go on a credit card spree and different things like that. And I've seen 100 inquiries, I've seen 80, I've seen 70, I've seen 50, I've seen
Mm,
40, and sometimes
yeah.
it's just like, darn well, if you have to get down to the 30s and 40s,
Yeah.
like you got to be.
Yeah.
Chances are, a lot of times I see people with all the stuff. I mean, the only time I definitely give grace and leniency, because a lot of times I do work with developers, like real estate developers or people who needed to go get different loans and stuff. So they'll come to me. I do have an inquiry package where we'll clean them up and then we just make it a revolving door of supporting them with their inquiries, because that's the part for the course with the business. But if you're just
Hmm.
running and you let someone run you 30 times for a car, please, I'm not even saying you got to come to me. Just please get your credit together to where you
Yeah.
don't have to if it has to take 30 runs, baby, you're not in shape. That's too many runs. We
Too
got
many.
to, we we have to get it. We have
That's a darn shame that many times. My
Yes, yes.
goodness.
And then the dealer would tell, oh no, it's just nothing. It's just a light pull.
Oh,
Please.
you have a shopping period, so you're fine.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't get the car, because some people wait later and they have 30 inquiries and they have to hang out with these inquiries for 2 years because they got
I
approved for the
know.
car. It's like,
Crazy, right?
baby, baby.
And then while we're on this topic, I just want to reiterate, stop applying for store credit cards, okay?
Yes.
Don't apply for any freaking store credit cards. None, okay? Why?
Yeah.
Because they give low limits. So as soon as you use it, your credit card utilization is super high.
Mm-hmm.
The discount is simply not worth it, okay? So I was working with this one gentleman. He had like 6 or 7 different store credit cards.
Yeah.
They're just crappy trade lines,
Yeah.
crappy
Yeah.
credit accounts because they're
Yeah.
very low limits. All of those cards were under $500. The
Yeah.
Children's Place, Victoria's Secret, Lane Bryant, all of these damn store cards were Macy's, JC Penney. Hey, did you want to apply for a store card today? We'll give you a 20% discount. Sephora, no. Old Navy, no, no, no. We want grade A trade lines with banks, okay? If you do want a credit card so you can shop, get a Visa, MasterCard, Discover, or American Express, okay?
Absolutely.
Do
Absolutely.
not get the store cards. The only store card that I would ever recommend is Care Credit, because Care Credit can be used. Care Credit, when they approve you, they use Synchrony Bank, but they will approve a high amount because usually people are using this for medical or dental, and it's a big amount. Even vets take it. So Care
Yeah.
Credit is cool because you can get high limits, but again, it is a revolving credit card. So if you did put $5,000 on a $10,000 Care Credit account, your utilization is going to be at 50%. So that could affect you in a negative manner if you don't have enough available credit on your credit profile to kind of even that out. So that's just
Yeah.
something to take in, but try to stay away from those store credit cards. They're just no good.
No, that's a good point you made too, that I think we should bring up, because also people, when they go to credit repair, they think that their score has to go up continuously because they're in credit repair. But
Mm-hmm.
my dear, if you start off at credit repair and your balance on your card was $0 or $15, and then once your results come back, your cycle has updated and that $15 balance is now $250,
Right.
your score, even if you got stuff cleaned up off your report, it's going to even out and your score may drop or not jump as high. No
Yeah.
matter how great your score is, if you're using more of your balance previous you were using less and now moving forward you're using more, your scores will factor that stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that
Yeah.
to say, it's like, just just get the information. Get with people
Yeah.
who can get you the information so it makes sense. So
Right.
you don't have to panic every time your score goes up and stuff and goes down. Make sure it makes sense. If it's a huge dip down, then yeah, we need to look at something. But
Right.
get with somebody who you can really be able to understand, that
Right.
can be able to help make sense of it for you.
Yeah, because even if you place an account under dispute with the credit bureaus, your credit score can go down just
Yeah.
because you have that account in dispute. But if that account gets deleted, it's going to make your credit score go up. So taking a 10, 20 point dip to put something in dispute, because sometimes the credit bureaus, let's just be honest, they don't like us. We're not their clients.
Yeah.
Their clients are banks and financial institutions.
Yes.
We are costing them money by putting things under dispute. So they're going to try to do whatever they can to, make it uneasy for us and difficult and make it so we don't ever want to do it again.
Yeah. That's
So
why they'll send those letters. They'll send all those stall letters, even the
yeah,
bureaus too. But
they
they'll
make it
send
hard as possible for you.
Yes, they'll send it in language
Yeah.
that everyday people would just crumble,
Yeah.
or they'll stop within the second try.
Yep.
That's why when you get professionals who are supposed to be professional, we're not supposed to back down from stuff
No.
like that. We're supposed to say,
No.
"Oh, that's what you're doing. Keep it coming
Okay.
because I'm on you. I'm on you. Let's go."
Arbitration.
I love I love a good challenge. Let's do it.
Yeah,
But
for
everyday
sure.
people would just become frustrated because it's like, why? So you want to
Yeah.
have the tools. You got to have it's all about the tools.
Yes, absolutely. Here are some action steps for you guys to take. You want to get a copy of your credit report, whether that's with My FICO, My Score IQ. My Score IQ is going to be from the same folks as Identity IQ, but Identity IQ is a Vantage 3.0 model, and My Score IQ is the FICO model. So I'll leave the links below for both of those. If you like smart credit and you're like, oh, I want a Vantage score, then get smart credit. I left the link below for that as well. You want to review your credit reports. If you're not much of a computer person, you're like, look, I got to print it out, highlight all of the negative, derogatory, collection, charge off, and any inquiries that you could possibly delete and put it all together, or contact us and we can help you get to the next steps on that if you don't want to, or you don't have the time, or you're just like, I don't know how to do this stuff.
Yeah,
Because
just if
it's
you
not
want a
easy. Let's
consultation,
just be honest,
even if you want a consultation just to see if it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense or just see what you're up against, then you can
Right.
definitely get a consultation to see what that looks like. So
Absolutely.
that's something that we
Absolutely.
absolutely will do for you.
And then you want to dispute all of the negative items on your credit report with both the credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, along with the creditor or data furnisher that is reporting that data to the credit bureaus. Okay. And, inside of our community, we have our letter libraries. We have, we teach you how to use AI for free to draft up your dispute letters. We teach you how to create an affidavit, a truth affidavit, and use that as supporting documentation. But ultimately, step one is just to get that bad boy under dispute. If you are
Yes.
sending a dispute into the credit bureaus, you want to make sure that you send in supporting documentation as much as possible. If you have a letter that supports your claim, send a copy of it. If you have anything that helps support your claim, send a copy of that into the credit bureaus or upload it to their portal, experian.com/upload. Great way to upload to Experian without having an account. TransUnion, you have to have an account. Equifax, you have to have an account. But you want to get those under dispute so that way, you can figure out if it's going to be deleted. If not, then of course you just keep on attacking that. And last but not least, invest in mentorship. Okay.
Yeah.
I would not be where I'm at today if I did not invest in my education. Same
Yeah.
thing with doctors and lawyers. They would not be where they're at if they did not invest in their education,
Absolutely.
because you have to. Okay. When you're furthering your education and you're working towards a certain goal, it only makes sense to work with people that have already been through it and that specialize in what you're dealing with so
Yeah.
they can map it out for you and you
Yeah.
don't have to make the same costly mistakes. Because
Yeah.
so many of my clients have paid other people from YouTube and social media and have been so disappointed because it wasn't what they were advertising. And, I understand, but at the same time, you really have to watch people and you have to be able to learn how to trust them. A lot of people online, they just are not trustworthy. If
Yeah.
it sounds too good to be true, it is. There's no one way that any person that repairs credit can guarantee a certain action. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
I agree. Well said.
And we're not trying to sell you, we want to help you elevate to the next level. And that's where we get into building credit, because it's not just about credit repair. And
Yeah.
that's one of the mistakes that I made when I paid for credit repair.
Me
I
too.
paid Blue Sky Financial for 8 months and I got nothing. My credit score was still in the 500s. They gave me no sort of education. I had no idea what was going on. And I did it because it was cheap. I Googled it. I found them $79 a month. I can afford that, but I paid it for 8 months with no results. So that doesn't make any sense, right? So we definitely want to focus on building up our credit. And we talked about some of the data points, 2 to 4 installment loans, 6 to 10 credit cards. When we talk about credit cards, we're not including any subprime credit cards because eventually those subprime credit cards you'll want to close after a while, especially if they're like the crappy, First Progress or Open Sky. Like after it's been a few years and you've already gotten your other credit cards, like you can close those little crappy ones. I have. If you're going after funding, don't close shit
Yeah.
because it's never good. So if you have questions, book a call and we can go over it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap up this part of the podcast because we're at a good breaking point. Next episode, we're going to be talking about how to build credit and how to leverage all of these credit trade lines to get you that 100K. It's coming up next.